The Johari window. It looks like it's an esoteric name, doesn't it? It's named after Joe and Harry. Seriously, we'll get to that in a minute. We know that unity is metaphysical Christianity. And the simple explanation of what is metaphysics is the study of something beyond the physical. But it truly had its start with Plato, back in the 4th century BCE. Metaphysics is a combination of 3 other studies in Greek philosophy. And they are ontology, cosmology, and epistemology. You know, it really helps that I had a brother who majored in philosophy. And we used to sit in my mother's basement imbibing of certain substances and listening to Sills and Crofts, and my brother would explain. I've known what epistemology was since I was 20 years old. Okay, ontology is the study of being. What am I? What is God? You know, when Moses asked God what his name was, God says, I am what I am. It is at the heart of every school of philosophy. Every one of them starts with ontology, because if you don't know what you are, there is no sense in going any further, because everything else would be based on a faulty foundation. The second study that is in metaphysics is cosmology. That's time and space, the universe. We cover these. We cover these all the time. We don't call them maybe by these names, but we're always talking about the nature of consciousness, and I'll have featurettes on astronomy. And okay, the third part is epistemology, which is the study of how we know things. How do you know that's true? How do you know things? And today's talk fits in that category. It's about what we know. The Johari window is not deep Greek philosophy, but it still fits into epistemology. The Johari window was developed by American psychologists Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham in the 1950s. And they called their model Johari by combining their first names. It can be, and most commonly is, applied to group communication. If you Google this, you're going to find a different explanation from what we're covering today, because we are focusing on a different application of the Johari window. When you apply it the way we do, it is for individual awareness and personal growth. And I learned this way in ministerial school, okay? The 4 quadrants in this graphic have labels commonly used when you're applying the Johari window to interpersonal communication: the open self, the blind self, the hidden self, the unknown self. And we're not going to use those labels today, but you needed to know that they are commonly used. And those same 4 quadrants are identified by these questions. The first one, and I've got it up there, but fear not, I've got another screen with them bigger, okay? The upper left quadrant, what do you know that you know you know? Then the upper right quadrant, what do you know that you don't know you know? The bottom left, what don't you know that you know you don't know? And the bottom right, and this one's my favorite, what don't you know that you don't know you know? You don't know you don't know. And perhaps it's easier to see these questions in this list form, in this bigger font. So we'll be working with them like this today, and we're going to take them one at a time. The first one, what do you know that you know you know? I know that the sun will come up tomorrow, only it really doesn't. That's the earth spinning, so yeah, it's just kind of a fallacy, but that's a shot over the Mississippi River. Isn't that beautiful? So the things that you know can be mundane. They can be mystical or spiritual. There's a lot of things that you know you know. What do you know that you don't know you know? Now this one is fascinating. I love the game show Jeopardy. I watch it every day. I'm very good at it. If I watch it with other people, I try to keep my mouth shut so I don't seem like a show-off, because I know a lot of things. And I know a lot of things that I didn't know I knew. And they'll ask some question, and this answer will come floating up out of the cloud. We're going to talk about the cloud. And I will absolutely know that's the answer to the question. I may not know another thing about that topic. The only thing I know is that's the right answer to that question. So this was something that I knew what do you know that you don't know you know? I didn't know that I knew that. Where did that come from? We talk about the cloud. We talk about the cloud. Apple talks about the cloud in technology, and it's a big network of supercomputers. But in the metaphysical, spiritual, mystical realm, the cloud is more like an energy cloud. It's a cloud of consciousness. And I personally believe that information is not stored in our brains. I believe information is stored in the cloud. I had a career in computers before I gave it all up for God. And the brain is like the central processing unit, the CPU. It has the operating system. It runs certain programs and applications. And it has the ability to store and retrieve data. But the data is not kept in the CPU. It's kept offline storage. It's kept in the cloud. And I actually use these images when I want an answer to something. I'll put out a retrieval request. Go get me the answer to that. And before I know it, it'll just come chirping in like a little bird and pop into my head. So I believe that our brains are retrieval devices and that the information's in the cloud. So what do you know that you don't know you know? Well, there's all kinds of things in the cloud that I don't know that I know until I need them, until they ask that question on Jeopardy. Okay. The fourth quadrant, we're back to Greece here. What don't you know that you know you don't know? Have you heard of that expression, it's all Greek to me? Well, people say that when they don't understand something, when they don't know, it's all Greek to me. Just like the mystery of the Greek alphabet. I know I don't know Greek. I do not know the Greek language. So there are a lot of things on this mundane level that we know we don't know. I don't know how to build a spaceship. I don't know how to play the clarinet. You know I don't know these things. And then, my favorite quadrant of all, what don't you know that you don't know you know? And I have been waiting for months to share these following ideas with you, and this talk is where they fit in. Do you see those symbols there? Is there anybody here that's Jewish? Is there anybody here that knows what those symbols are? Do you know that you have seen these symbols probably every day of your lives? Every single day of your lives. These are the symbols on food packages that say it's kosher or not. and they are always there. I brought these pita chips today because we've got some hummus for our refreshments. And right here is a K in a circle and a little D by it. And that means these are kosher, but they've got dairy in them. If you're not familiar with the kosher diet, you cannot mix meat and dairy. So you need to know for each item, would it be meat or would it be dairy? Or there's another word, pareva, and it's probably not pronounced that, which means it's neither meat nor dairy and can be mixed with either. When you look at this assortment here with the U and the circle and the K and the triangle and the K and the star, there are different agencies that certify foods to be kosher, and they each have, it's kind of like branding their cattle, they each have their own little symbol. But those all mean this is kosher. This on the right was from a specific package, and the U in the circle means it's kosher. The pareva means it's neither meat nor dairy, and the P means it's kosher for Passover, which means it doesn't have leavening in it either. These have been on your cereal boxes on the kitchen table every morning when your mom poured that bowl of cornflakes for you. They have always been there, and you never noticed them, and you did not know what they meant. These were things you did not know that you did not know. Now, this has a deeper significance because it's about our perception. What else are we seeing every day that we don't recognize, that we don't understand, that we don't know that we don't know? And if we did know, how would it change our lives? Another aspect of this quadrant and symbols like this is they tend to apply to select groups of people. You know, athletes have their own jargon. Kosher food has its own requirements. And so those select groups of people would recognize them because they had meaning to them. Whereas if we weren't in one of those groups, it's like we just skim over it, skim over it. The pistachios on the table today have these symbols on them. I checked. They're everywhere. What else is everywhere? Okay, now here comes the best part of this talk. Back to our list of 4 questions. We have used assorted mundane examples for each of these quadrants, and yet you can apply this whole model to deeper, more transformational material and aspects of your life. And I'm going to share how it worked for me. When I was 52 years old, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. And it happened like this. I was ordained when I was 50, 2 years before that. And there were things in ministerial school which were a struggle for me, things that should not have been that much of a struggle considering how easy many things are for me. 2 examples were I couldn't pay attention to the textbooks. They did not hold my interest, and I could not read them. And procrastination. Oh, man, still is a problem, not as much, but procrastination, and it made things so hard. It made it a struggle for me, and it hurt the quality of my work. If you put everything off to the last minute, then you will turn a product that is good enough, but it's not your best, you know? So I got ordained, I was 50, and I thought, I can't keep on like this. This is not good enough, and it's too hard. So I prayed, and my prayer went like this: God, oh God, something's wrong. Something's wrong, and I need to know what it is, because I can't go any further until I do. I could not take a church until I knew why I struggled with these things. So, in this example, I'm moving from quadrant to quadrant. We start out that I did not know what I did not know. I did not know I had ADD, and I did not know that I did not know I had ADD, and that it had colored my entire life. Then, when I had this struggle and I asked for an answer, it moved me into the quadrant that says, what don't you know that you don't know? I knew there was something going on. I didn't know what it was. And I needed to know what it was. And that was what my prayer was. There's something going on, and I don't know what it is, but I need to know what it is. After I used that prayer, many different clues were provided, and that's a material for one of my autobiographies, in my awakening to the knowledge that I had ADD. But I think what really clinched it was when my mother called me up. My mother's still alive, she's 92 years old. My mother called me up and said that she thought she had ADD and that I had it too. And then she gave me a website that had a self-quiz, and it was specifically for women. So it dealt with things that would be part of a woman's life, like, do you have a problem getting your laundry all the way done, including folding the clothes and putting them back in the drawers? I live out of my baskets. How did they know that? Things like that. And that gave me the insight to get a medical diagnosis. And sure enough, it was ADD. And I want you to know that the medication helps a lot. It does. This was a huge awakening and turning point in my life. All right, back to epistemology. The study of how we know what we know is but one part of the field of metaphysics. And Johari's window is but one example of a way to analyze what we know. But perhaps the most important part of today's talk is answered prayer. Regardless of what challenge you may be facing, regardless of what question you might have, ask, and it shall be answered unto you. We never walk alone. We are immersed in God's love and God's guidance. We have within us everything needed to solve any problem, whether individually or globally. And remembering these big T truths, we know that all is well. And thus ends the lesson. God bless you.